kind of soul wisdom that reminds us why we came here and what we're here to create. This is Feed Your Chakras, episode 6, Embodied Transformation and Soulful Success. And today I'm joined by the luminous Didi Verg, she's a sought-after transformation mentor, intuitive guide, the embodiment queen who empowers visionary women to activate their fullest expression, and she is known as the Quantum Hypnotist. She embraces her spiritual gifts and leads with a magnetic authenticity you are going to see for yourself. And with over 20 years of experience of blending neuroscience, energy work, and deep soul coaching, Didi guides change makers, creators, and conscious leaders into alignment and in touch with their true essence. So I'm so honored to have her here today. Today, we're also going to explore what it means to live from your soul rather than from strategy, and how embodiment is the gateway to your power, your pleasure, and your purpose. And we're also going to talk a little bit about the difference between chasing success and receiving your next level self, and how to reclaim your energy, boundaries, and voice in a world that tries to keep you small. So whether you're curled up with a tea or commuting through the matrix or anchoring into your afternoon ritual, this episode is your portal to self-remembrance, soul alignment, and sacred power. Thank you so much, Didi, for joining us. It's truly an honor.
Thank you for having me, Angela. That was quite the introduction.
You're quite the woman.
It's everything I'm about, so.
It is. She's very humble, okay? I've known Didi for several years, and I've done a lot of work with her. We've done a lot of experiments together, and that's why I'm just so honored to have her here today, because I just want to share her work with you. She really can tap into space-time continuum, and she does incredible work. So we're just gonna try and share a little bit of that today. So let's just start with mind meets mystery. So since you work with the unconscious, the third eye, and even the quantum field, can you give someone who's new to all of these concepts how you would explain the connection between the unconscious and the quantum?
Okay, so let's explain the unconscious for those who are unfamiliar with what that may mean.
Yes, and not the subconscious.
Yeah. So what our unconscious is 97% of our behaviors and our actions are driven or come from our unconscious programming. And our unconscious programming occurs from the time we're a baby up until about 7 years old, before we have formed our critical thinking skills. So if you tell like a 5-year-old, like, hey, there's a purple dragon outside with pink polka dots and he's waiting to take you to lunch, they will not question that at all, because they don't have critical thinking abilities as of yet. That occurs at around age 7 or 8. So yeah. Everything that is said, the way parents act, the way parents, teachers, relatives, and friends act, they absorb like a sponge, and it becomes their belief system and the way they're running their patterns with their mind. Okay, so what I mean by patterns are like, how do you handle stress? Well, my mother was extremely reactive and she would just fly off the handle and yell. Well, what's going to happen is that's the only way that you are modeling or have been taught how to deal with stress. So automatically, until you get conscious control or you remove that unconscious block, that is how you are going to respond to stress. So people aren't inherently bad, or they don't mean harm. They're just running some bad programming that they've learned as a kid that they have yet to uncover and to change.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. You know, it's kind of funny when you're saying that with the 5-year-old. I was walking down the street yesterday and I was wearing a Superman sweater. And this little girl got so excited because she thought it was a superhero. It was so funny. So it just reminded me of that. And then her mom's like, no, that's just a girl. I was like, no, I am a superhero. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've opened your own third eye. Was there a pivotal moment in your life that triggered that? And did that change the way that you now see reality?
Okay, so when you talk about third eye, I would label that as our intuitive capabilities, which we're all born with. Some people are born with gifts that far exceed others. So for example, I have friends that they can see earthbound spirit, or they can talk to spirits that have crossed over, or they can read tea leaves or coffee cup or tarot cards and they can be spot on, or they can remote view a person or a situation. And this is more natural to them. Mine was something thank God I cued into from when I was very young, because we all have it. I just don't have it in spades like those people. But I have managed to hone it to the best of my ability through paying attention. So for example, when I was really young, my aunt and my uncle and my two cousins used to live down the way. We lived out in the country, so they were basically my only company. And I would be able to walk into a room, and I would just know by walking in what do you want to call it, temperature, or how everybody was feeling. It's like, oh, this is something there's tension in the room or whatever, or, oh, it's a happy environment. But they didn't have to, I didn't have to look at them. This was a feeling. So thank God I learned how to follow this, to trust it. The second thing is that everybody's experienced this, where you think of somebody and maybe you haven't spoken to them in a year, and all of a sudden they call the next day. Well, I started paying attention to that too, and I started learning, this is so interesting. Like, either I called it, they're pinging me, or I'm pinging them. We're thinking of one another. We're thinking of reaching out. So either I'm sending that like thing through space time, which is instant. I'm sending that like psychic memo out, and they're picking up on it. And one of us is taking action first. But one of the most profound things was, when I was traveling overseas, I'd met a man, and I got home and I said, I'm going to get a letter in the mail. And I got a letter in the mail that day, and I'd never received a letter from him. It was 3 months later, and I thought, this is really fascinating. Like, we know things. We are tapping into that time-space continuum, the access to all conscious knowledge. I would dream the future. So in the late morning hours, just before we wake up, I would kind of have like a little mini dreamlets. And the reason I knew it was true is the real unusual stuff. So for example, one day I dreamt that there was a plane landing on a building. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. There's a plane landing on a small plane landing on a skyscraper. And then you turn on the news that day, and they're like, breaking news, this a plane had to make an emergency landing on a New York skyscraper. And I'm like, okay, I know it's real. So I always pay attention to it, except when we're running a limiting belief. So again, let me tell you, I'll use myself as an example. So I had some issues around money, and it can't be that easy, blah, 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 blah. So I would sabotage myself every time it was easy to make money. And I would make sure, like unconsciously, that it didn't happen. So what happened was, I had invested in some stocks that came from a good tip, from a good source. And I'm sitting on the couch one day, and clear as a bell, I hear in my ear, I'm not going to say the name of the stock. I'll make up a name. Okay. So sell LCT, sell LCT. And I'm reading a book, and I'm like, the heck was that? And then sell LCT. I hear a voice, and I'm going, and I'm looking to see, did I read something that triggered what this stock was about? Like, something had to trigger this. To me, it wasn't possible that I could get a voice in my head, and it's like, sell LTC, and it's urgent, right? And I'm going, what is this voice? Where is it coming from? I started to argue with the voice. Angela, I'm not kidding you. I'm like, who is this? What is this? I'm not going to sell LCT. And you know what's the stupidity? Like, sorry, I don't want to call it stupidity.
You didn't trust your intuition.
Well, I didn't even think that level of intuition was possible to begin with. But my money mindset, it was like, yeah, this can't be possible, because again, that's too easy that I could get a message to tell me to sell this stock, right? So I'm like, look, I don't know where this voice is coming from. This is crazy. You know what? And I'm arguing with the voice, and I said, and besides, I'm not going to sell LTC because the guys who told me, Carlos and Michael, think I'm crazy. So I was more worried about what my friends would think about me all of a sudden up and selling this stock. Well, the front page, when we had newspapers back then, it made the front page of the Financial Times. It said as the #1 biggest loser. Nobody knew why. Nobody knew how. All we knew is all of a sudden there was some trigger, everyone sold, and my stock was worth nothing. And that wasn't supposed to happen with that stock, because I kind of had information from, you know, like whatever, we'll just say whatever. So even the people who had invested heavily, who were close to the stock, everybody lost their money. So after that, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to listen to this. I don't need to question where it comes from. You know, it's out for my highest good. So it's a matter of paying attention to it. If you're not born with a gift where you can actually see beings from the other side, or where you see that someone's going to die before it happens, you can develop it. And for most of my clients, I always run them, their very first session is always I show them how to tap into their intuitive advisor, I call it, your intuitive advisor, which is your higher self, how to tap into that. And the problem is that most of us do not listen to it. We question it, like I did.
It's 111. 111.
Yay!
Make a wish.
My wish is that this
Don't tell
beautiful soul that is interviewing me have all the success in the world, because she's brilliant.
Aw, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I think what you're describing is like you heard the voice and you get all these downloads. There's a few different intuitive gifts. Clairvoyance, they actually kind of go with our senses: clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance, clairgustance is when you taste something, clairtangency is when you feel something, and clairalliance. And so those are kind of it. But since you mentioned that you had a dream, I was just curious, because I believe that we're the creators of our reality. What do you think the role of dreams, imagination, and visualization play in that?
Okay, so our dreams are sources of guidance for us. If they're not visions of the future, because I've had that too, and they've come true, like absolute visions. And again, it's only because I pay attention. I'm not one of those extraordinarily gifted people, but you can develop it and tap into it and hone it, okay? So, but dreams most often will come in a symbolic form or symbolic message. They're not like straight out like, hey, this person's bad for you, or it'll come like again, I'll use myself as an example. So I didn't have good boundaries a long time ago. So it was so interesting. This dream was so profound at the time because I was very, very ill. And my cousin, who was 28 years old, who had passed on from an aneurysm, it's the only time he's ever communicated with me. He showed me on a motorcycle, and I'm driving a motor, like slowly. It's like, just like going at maybe 5 kilometers an hour. And then he piled a person on, and then he piled another person on. Then he piled another person on, and he piled another person on. And it's very symbolic that like, I'm trying to carry too many people. I wanted to help the world. I didn't have good boundaries. I was taking on everybody's stuff. And I've never been depressed in my life, but that dream and the realization of why I had become so ill at that time in my life was because I didn't have good boundaries, because I had to help. I had to drop everything for everybody else all the time. And a lot of times those people weren't willing to do that for me, which was a real kick in the teeth at the time, to learn that, like, you know, I have a sense of loyalty. Okay, let's do this. Let's help you out. And then when you'd ask, Buckus would come back. It would be like, oh yeah, I'm busy, or yeah, sorry, I wish I could help you out, but it's not a good time for me, or whatever the excuses people make, which is fine. You never give with conditions on it, but it was just a hard lesson to me that eventually caused me to be ill for about 10 years. So when I had that dream of the piling on, and then the motorcycle it couldn't move. The tires couldn't move. It was too heavy.
Carrying all this weight that wasn't even yours.
Symbolic. It's always symbolic. It comes in, but if you tune into the symbology of it, and that dream left me just totally depressed for 3 days. I remember I was like, it just hit me so hard at the time, because it was a realization. Wow. And dreams, you know, sometimes the feeling we're left with is so powerful. So always feel the feeling, because it's the feeling that's going to tell you what the dream's about. And the feeling was like, you know, whoosh, I've been hit by a truck, you know, like, I mean, and also when someone you love comes through and gives you a message, it's very,
Yeah, especially someone that's passed over.
And someone who's deeply, oh, I'm just gonna cry.
Aw.
It's all right.
Okay.
Well, it was my cousin who was my best friend growing up. So when he came through and gave me that message, I was so honored that he cared.
Of course he cares.
Yeah. Sorry. Wow. What a coincidence. Kleenex goes by.
Feel it. You got to feel it to heal it. Okay. So let's move on to the next question.
Thank you. Sorry about that, everybody.
No, apologies. I love a good cry. Okay. So since you're talking about dreams and trusting your intuition, some people say trust your gut, trust your guides, follow your heart, follow your dreams.
Yeah.
Others point to the third eye. How do we know which inner voice is speaking and when?
Okay, so the gut happens to have more neuroreceptors in it than almost any part in our body, along with the heart. Okay.
The heart, yeah, I think the heart actually the most, but the gut.
Yeah, it may be the heart. It's been so long. I read books on this from Heart Math 30 years ago. The heart math is the most fascinating. So in order to get in touch with your intuitive self, there's a simple process. It's called getting into a state of love, gratitude, or joy. And Heart Math will teach you all this. So what that does is opens up your heart to communication, right? To receiving. So it does that through creating coherence or balance in our entire system. So everybody's had the experience of being stressed or wigged out, and they're like, oh, and the thoughts are bouncing in, and there's no clarity because your head's arguing with your heart. Your heart is giving you this feeling like, oh, maybe walk away from this great job opportunity. And you're like, your head's going, but why would I? It's the best opportunity I've ever had. And then later on, you find out like your boss is a psychopath and you end up leaving anyway, right? So sometimes our head and our heart get discombobulated. But the way to get the truest, clearest answer is to go into a state of love, gratitude, or joy, because what that does is it puts all of your nervous system, your brain, and all of your organs into a perfect alignment or harmony or coherence. So from that place, you're not making a reactive decision. What you're doing is you're receiving information and you're choosing the best response possible. So it's important that we like peel ourselves off the ceiling. And I'm happy to give a couple techniques that will also like discharge like these, I call them disempowering emotions, because anxiety is not a bad thing if it's motivating you. Or it's just, are they empowering at the time or are they disempowering at the time?
Yeah, well, actually, that's what I wanted to ask you. What would you recommend, like a quick practice for people who have these limiting beliefs or negative self-talk or unconscious patterns? Like what would that look like? What would you recommend?
Okay, so I'll give you, so the number one thing I spoke about was just putting on some kind of gratitude meditation. And then you ask the question deep down in your heart. Okay, so what's a better, more effective way to handle this? Okay. So I always recommend guided meditations because they, you know, then you can be objective. You don't, or pardon me, if someone's guiding you and they're answering the questions, you can be completely inside and subjective. But sometimes when you're listening to a guided meditation, if that's all you have, like you're asking yourself the question and you're waiting for the answer too. The answer, just think of the answer bubbling up. It bubbles up like a little spring. It's just going to bubble up and it's going to be a voice or a feeling or a symbol or something like that. Okay. So there's that. Number one is putting on some kind of guided visualization for gratitude. If, for example, you have constant anxiety, okay, that's the anxiety. We'll talk about that in a moment. That's coming from a past belief, trauma, or experience, or how you learn to handle anxiety, as we mentioned when we first opened up this conversation. So, but in order to get to the clearer thinking, you're going to rate your anxiety. So what is my anxiety on a scale of 1 to 10? Something just happened. It's like, oh my God, it's a 9, I'm wigging out. And then you get that unclear feeling where the thoughts are rushing in and they're fast and a million things are bombarding and your head is fighting with your feeling, which is your heart. You got to stop that right away. So the best and fastest way, because I'm a fan of fast, I'm a hypnotist. I like to get problems dealt with quickly. I like to remove patterns and make people, you know, very consciously aware and confident, right? And install new beliefs is to do something called bilateral brain stimulation. So what bilateral brain stimulation is a fancy word for any right-left movement. right? So I could take, let's just say this was a ball. I could just take it and go like this. And all I have to do is focus on my breathing. Any right, left movement, rhythmic right, left movement will open up the midbrain, your corpus callosum. And what it will do is it will open you up to whole brain thinking. So here we have this, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, it's spinning around in there, and it's spinning and it's full of emotion. So what the bilateral brain stimulation does is it discharges the emotion, opens up the brain to how do you want to respond, not being reactive. Being reactive is making silly decisions that don't work for you out of anger, frustration. That's it, I'm walking out. I'm telling my boss off or whatever. That may not be the right solution at the right time. So any right left movement. So what you do is you rate your anxiety. I'm going to use anxiety because we're in a world filled with people with anxiety. It's like, oh my God, was on a scale of 1 to 10, and feel where it is in your body. Like we have so little connection between our mind body. So most people will feel the like tightness in the chest, the shortness of breathing. So just take a moment to drop down inside your body and notice the feeling. Sometimes there's a symbol. The symbol might be like, it's a rope wrapped around and squeezing everything, or just kind of, your body has the answers. Our unconscious as mind and body like this, right? They're both connected. So you drop down inside and say, where am I holding that? Some people hold it, my stomach's in a knot. Okay, my stomach's in a knot and I'm like an 8 out of 10 and my mind is racing. Take your cell phone and put on a timer. This is one of the most important things because 1 minute will seem like forever, okay? So you've put on a timer, you've rated how you're feeling. Now you're just gonna take some kind of ball, a sock, an apple, anything you have at the time, and you're just gonna toss it back and forth. And all you're gonna do is you're not thinking, you're not trying to do anything. You're just taking nice rhythmic breaths and you're following that thing back and forth. I always say follow it with your eyes too, because then that's a second set of rhythmic movements, because that's what we do at night when we're working out in our REM. Our eyes go back and forth like this. It's trying to work out patterns, trying to work out situations. So you just do that for 1 minute and then you tap down inside again and you say, okay, now what's my anxiety now? Guaranteed, it's going to drop by 40%. If not more. Very rarely has anybody, if someone's really, really distressed, sometimes they'll say, oh, it's only gone from like an 8 to a 7. Then, you know, you can do it again, or you can do it for 90 seconds. That is the absolute fastest way to immediate. But most often, the only time I haven't had it work was when I was actually teaching a seminar and this girl put up her hand. She said, it's not working. I went over, she wasn't breathing. I go, she's not breathing. Look, she's tossing the ball and she's holding her breath. It's not going to work. So the only time it's not going to at least shave off 10 to 40 to 60% of that anxiety is if you're not breathing. So you got to remember our breath is key. And you can speak a lot about that, Angela. Yes. Being a yoga instructor and chakra expert and things like that. So you've got to make sure you're breathing. And then once you've, I call it peeled yourself off the ceiling, then you can step into something. Do you want me to go into like the quick tapping that we do? That
well, I'm just laughing because this reminds me, like I mentioned, I've done a lot of work with Didi and I'm so grateful for her because there have been times where I called her up and I was anxious about something and she did this brain scramble. I actually videotaped it. I never posted it. I may in the future. I still have it. I have to find it. But we literally sat down there and like, I love her so much. She sat there, got me down to from like an 8 anxiety level down to a 2, scrambling my brain. We didn't do the sock throwing thing or whatever. But you did mention the breath. And so since this is about balancing out the brain, do you recommend Nodi Shodhana breathing? Like the
okay, you're gonna have to explain to me what that is.
it's the nostril breathing. Where
okay, that is the most fabulous thing. Of course, it's been around for 2,000 years. It works. That does the exact same thing as bilateral brain stimulation. Okay, exact same thing, because what you're doing is you're opening up the midbrain. Because as you know, every 90 minutes we switch from having the most proactive nostril, like the nostril that we're breathing through most, will switch every 90 minutes. Our brain does that. I guess it's its way of balancing itself out, I'm going to say. It switches to what's the primary.
Brilliant.
Pardon me?
So the brain is brilliant.
Oh, we are, listen, we are born with everything we need. The thing is, we're living in a world that discounts intuition.
And disconnects us.
It disconnects us. We're not stepping on the soil. We're not grounded. We're on devices that tell us how to feel. We're not feeling, you know, anyway. Yeah. So the alternate nostril breathing is profound, absolutely profound. In fact, when I used to work with food, I had food issues, and I'm a weight loss coach because I've worked
this is one of the things we first connected on at an Ialicious dinner.
Yes. So I noticed, I was like, oh my God, like, so a craving for a certain kind of food, I'll call it unhealthy food, will just loop in the brain. I mean, it'll be enough to drive you crazy, right? You just can't go because you're visualizing it, you're tasting it, you're like jonesing so bad. You do 5 minutes of alternate nostril breathing, that craving is nullified. So the alternate nostril breathing is exactly the same as the bilateral brain stimulation, but you have to do it. You have to take the time. And sometimes we feel, even myself, so pressured, so time pressured. It's like, oh no, that's going to take 5 minutes to you know?
But how much that 5 minutes gives you, because everything else just operates so much more smoothly.
Exactly. It's the law of diminishing returns. If you stay in that like frenetic state, you're spinning your wheels. It's like you might as well take the 5 minutes because you'll be effective and efficient after that. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, we got us completely sidetracked there. I believe you were going to give us a little demo on tapping.
Okay, so
She's also done with me too.
Yeah. So so when Angela talks about the brain scrambling, that's just where I have people their eyes in all different directions to it. What it does is it scrambles out the feeling. Your brain is accessing it in one point. You get the eyes moving in different directions. It's a whole process, but I'll basically tell you, by getting the person to make eye movements, you're scrambling that feeling and they can't access it. They're like, I'm like, where is it? And they're like, you can see them looking around, searching for it. Like, this is NLP, right? And I'm like, where is it? And they're like, I can't find it. Okay. But I mean, this is something you could do on your own. I like people to have things that they can do on their own. So going back to, we're made up of patterns, okay? So patterns, so we may have, we'll always use anxiety since we started on that. So somebody has learned to respond with everything with anxiety. Okay, so, but that feeling, it goes layers deep, okay? So it goes down to feeling inadequate or less than or incapable. If you learned from one of your parents to respond to anxiety in an anxious way, there's no confidence there in yourself, right? Because if you had confidence, you wouldn't have anxiety. If you knew you could handle the problem, you wouldn't have anxiety. So a quick way to do it, if you want to do it yourself, is to start with what you're feeling, the primary feeling. So, oh my God, I'm feeling out of control, like I can't handle this. So you're acknowledging the feeling by tapping on this point. But I still love and accept myself.
Do you want me to do it?
If you have a hard time saying love, just say, I still accept myself. Because then you're going,
love and accept myself.
Yeah. So it's like, oh,
we did this on video too.
Yeah. So, oh my God, I'm in tripping balls. I can't handle this. It's never going to work out. But I love and accept myself. Okay. So now you've acknowledged the feeling. Now you're just going to let it go. You're going to say, let it go. Okay. You're tapping on acupressure points.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go.
And for those that are watching this video, you can loop this around for yourself if you need to. So let it go.
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 Corner of collarbone. Let it go.
Let it go.
You take your wrist, you wrap your hand around it.
The hand that you were tapping with?
Yes. And okay. You take a deep breath in.
Okay.
You say peace and you close your eyes. Peace. Now, you're gonna notice the next feeling that's under that. Okay. So, I'm a bit calmer. Because again, it's a pattern interrupt. You're interrupting that pattern. You're bringing yourself down by saying, let it go. So you're again calming yourself. I said, okay, yeah, maybe I can handle it, but I still feel overwhelmed. Okay, so even though I still feel overwhelmed,
I still feel overwhelmed.
I love and accept myself.
I love and accept myself.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go. Let it go. You'll do it slower. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Peace.
Peace.
Now you sit with that. And I always say, let the feeling bubble up because it's in your body, right? So it's okay. But I still feel incapable of handling the problem. Okay. So now we're talking about skills and capabilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or belief in yourself. Okay. Even though I still feel incapable of handling the situation, I love and accept myself. Okay. And then you do the tapping, let it go, let it go, let it go. Eventually what's going to happen is you're going to trickle through all your beliefs downwards about all your beliefs about yourself and the underlying emotion that is attached to it. And what happens when you peel all those layers away and you're zen, then all of a sudden what's going to happen when there's nothing left anymore, you're going to be like, everything's going to be okay. You're going to close your eyes, nothing left. You've tapped it all away. You've said, let it go. And all of a sudden you're like, I can do this. Then I say, let it in, 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 let it in. Peace. Sit with it. I've done this before. I can do this. Let it in, let it in. At some point when you fizzled out of all of the disempowering things, it flips into the positive. The things that are good and right about you, the confidence, the resources. You know, when life throws us a curveball, sometimes we have to get through it, and we find power, we find resources in us we were unaware of what we had. But the thing is, these feelings are like a heavy, wet blanket, you know? Like if you've got this heavy, wet blanket of, oh my God, overwhelm, anxiety, these resources, they're trying to bounce up, but they keep hitting this heavy, wet blanket. So what you got to do is you just got to peel it off through the tapping. You're going through those layers. And all of a sudden it's like, remember that time when you did this? Remember how smart you are? Remember that you got through this? Remember how, and they can come up and you can utilize them. So in effect, what you've done is you've peeled all those layers away and you've made room for all that powerful stuff that you have inside you to bubble up and come up, and it's useful to you at the time. So I hope that helps.
Yeah. So you mentioned two ways now that we can clear some of our blocks, the brain scramble and the balancing the brain, actually three ways, and then the tapping, but you're also a hypnotist. So what are the most common blocks you find that your clients face, and also like when they're trying to connect with their inner guidance system?
Okay, so the number one thing is unworthiness. People don't feel worthy. They feel less than. They have a voice inside themselves saying, you're this, you're that, you're no good, you don't have to listen to that voice. And every time it comes, you can do a pattern interrupt, like the bilateral brain stimulation or the tapping. And eventually what's going to happen, and that voice, by the way, it's not always ours. Sometimes it comes from what what was said to us when we were growing up. So it's unworthiness, like not feeling less than, having like everyone else is more important, not having good boundaries. Just unworthiness. The second one is a lack of belief in oneself. Like, I can't do this, I can't handle this. I've met brilliant people who've accomplished brilliant things and they think they're just, I can't do anything right and I can't. But like, if you were to look at them in the workplace, they're the most brilliant one there. But there's a part of them, it's just a part of them that just berates them and says, you're no good and you can't do this and you're this and you're that. It's just a lack of belief in themselves, which again comes from either a traumatic experience, the way we were raised, what was said to us, what our beliefs are. So it's a lack of belief in itself. And those two things are basically what everybody's fraught with.
Yeah. So we haven't really touched too much into her hypnosis, but Didi, she specializes in weight loss, helping overcome addictions like smoking, and also helping people kind of rewrite the narrative and overcome blocks. But she's also a quantum hypnotist, which I find fascinating. So I was just wondering if we could tap into a little bit of that, into the field a little bit. In your sessions, do you ever help people access timelines or possibilities that seem way too far out to imagine, but they end up feeling?
I love it. Yes, I do all the time. And it's just my most favorite thing to do. So my job as a hypnotist is to clean up the entire timeline, not to clean it up, to help you clean it up.
She's a quantum janitor.
Yeah, a quantum janitor. Yes, I am. Actually, okay. So remember, in the beginning, we explained that we're working, let's say this is your past, okay? So we're working with our limiting beliefs, our blocks, our, you know, our unuseful behavioral patterns, okay? So we're working from here. So it's very necessary to go find out what those blocks are. So somebody will come in with a feeling is like, I get to a certain level of money, you know, I'm making $100,000, but inevitably there's this sabotage that occurs, can never get through. Okay, let's trace that back. Let's find out the belief. Let's find out the block, the limitation, whatever it is that's stopping you, okay? So we trace that back, we clear it up, we scramble it, we do whatever. We put in new programming, new healthy, updated programming, okay? So that's cleaning up your past. Because this is your present, you're creating from your present. And if your past is coloring your present, you're gonna act from these beliefs back here. So it's very important to clear up those, because the present is what's manifesting your future. And if you're running an unconscious pattern about I'll only ever make $100,000 because I'm not worthy, I'm incapable, I'm a loser, rich people are bad, whatever it is, you know. I remember, Angela, when I called you from Mexico?
Yeah.
Remember? And I said, oh my God. I was listening to this and I said, and I knew about this belief a long time ago because I'm very conscious of the earth. And I'm like, wealthy people waste resources. And I'm like, so of course, that wouldn't want me. That's a very generalized, but that wouldn't want me.
Said that that made you think that. Just I know what she said, but she said I have fun or something like for life. That was what her answer was.
What did I do? Okay, I can't even remember what I told myself.
When you asked her what she did, she says, "I choose to have fun" or something like that.
Oh no! You know what it was? I said there are a lot of conscious wealthy people out there. Okay. And then I said, I walked out on the street. Remember I said, I walked out on the street and I was different. I'm like, there's lots of conscious. I threw my shoulders back. I was happy. And I said, I'm just having fun. And then didn't I find myself on a $10 million yacht 4 days after that?
People who have fun for life.
Just saying, like, as soon as I got rid of that belief, I was invited on a $10 million yacht. No, it was 3 days. Yes. It was 3 days.
And now we're
here I am sailing
$1 million yacht in Spain.
In Mexico, actually, but still.
Oh, it's okay.
But it was just amazing. The minute you let go of a limiting belief, it's like, boom. This is what happens. Because I had held that. I when I was 22, I was always been working on my wealth manifestation. Okay, I had a belief that in order for us to be rich over here, somebody needs to be poor over there. So Chinese children are working in factories so that we can receive cheap products in the US, which saves us money, which makes us richer. Okay, but that's not exactly true because there are wealthy people everywhere. And again, it's a very generalized belief. So I got rid of that belief, but I didn't know the one about rich people waste the world's resources. Not true. A lot of conscious millionaires moving to change things. Yeah. So again, yeah, that was crazy. Wasn't that crazy, Angela?
Yes, it was crazy.
That's where I am. Which before I would have been disgusted by. I was like, oh, we're wasting gas in the water. And like, I don't know.
Okay, so I just want to go back into the quantum field. You mentioned that it's kind of like a mirror. So for somebody wanting to intentionally co-create with it, what would be the first step?
Okay, so the first step, as we mentioned, was you got to clean up the limiting beliefs. Then, then that frees you up.
Janitor.
That frees you up to manifest because now you truly believe it, right? So now you can say, okay, I'd like to have $400,000 this year income. I have no idea how I'm going to get it. Doesn't matter whether you believe it, doesn't matter. You just visualize it. You visualize it. You visualize it. You feel it. Angela knows I have a certain project with some land, and naturally I just always see it developing and coming into fruition. It's natural for me because I'm so jacked by it. Like I'm so excited by that project. Right?
You have to be excited about it too, because if you don't feel it in your body, then the belief is,
and I don't have blocks around it. I don't. I just enjoy it. It's my gift to humanity. So I don't have, you know, but again, it's not something I have to try to do. I just naturally, I'll tap in and I'll see us in the future, all getting along good together, growing food. Like it's a natural thing. So it should be something you can automatically see yourself doing. Now, another thing you can do is what I call, and this again, there is no such thing as time or space. We live in a quantum field where we have access to all information, all timelines at the same time. So this thing that I got into in the last couple of years, which is totally so cool, is putting people into their future. Because what happened a couple times in hypnosis, when I was first learning to do hypnosis, we do something called future pacing. We want to check the work we did. We said, I want you to see yourself now in what once would have caused the problem, but notice how you respond now. But I didn't use those words, okay? I wasn't very specific. So put yourself in the future situation where you once had anxiety. Notice how you respond to that. I would say, I want you to go into the future and see what it's like now. It was crazy. Like people would pop into a future, but it might be like 2, 3, 10 years. And it particularly happened with the young people, because I think young people are more open, like maybe 18, 17, 16. They'd be like, and I knew they were in the future because they'd say something like, I'm in a condo in Florida. And they're looking around and experiencing it. And they're like, there's a woman there and she's my wife. And so they were tapping into the future 100%. But then I started to do this deliberately. And I read some books on it and I learned a process. And what I learned was, if you don't like the future you've seen, you actually can change it in the present. And then when we revisit that future again, you have changed your timeline. You've jumped timelines. Okay, so I did this with a couple people. I'm like, wow, this is so easy. Well, I say it's easy, but it's not easy. You got to do your work. One person did not like the future he saw in regards to his loved ones and their behaviors and where they were at the time. And he said, this future has shown me that I've been too permissive with them. I have to actually say, you need to do A, B, and C to get to B, C, and D, right? So he had to, like, he was like a very permissive person. He says, no, I have to write out the steps and tell them to do it. And then his entire future changed.
Yeah.
So using future life progression, what you could do is you can test out a decision. So in one of the books I read, for example, because I love this example, this man came into an inheritance and he was choosing to invest in 2 land development companies. Okay, we'll call it company A, company B. So he says, I'm leaning almost 100% towards company A, but I want to do a future life progression. I want to check it out. Well, lo and behold, when he went into the future, A went out of business and B was the right choice. So he changed his choice. Okay, so he changed his choice because he saw in the future that the one that he was leaning heavily towards went out of business. There you go. You just saved yourself all your inheritance. The other thing you can do is you can speed up your timeline. So again, the example from this book I got.
Quantum leaping.
Yeah, quantum leaping. So this woman started a musical career. She said, I want to see when my music's going to be a hit, whatever. Well, in the future life progression, it took 10 years. But the hypnotist said, take all that knowledge, which is often what we do in hypnosis. We say, bring it back to the present, but use it now. So she was able to manifest her future in 1 year instead of 10 because she had the foreknowledge. What did you do? What is everything you did through that 10 years to bring you that success? Oh, I already know what I need to do. So let me go back and do it faster. So we can navigate, we can change, we can get information, we can jump around, we can clear up things, we can get resources, we can get strategies. We can get all of this by going into the future because there is no such thing as past, present, future. It's all accessible in the altered state of hypnosis or even psychedelics for that purpose.
Yeah. So, okay, so we're running out of time, but I was just curious. I know you've dealt with hundreds of clients, maybe even thousands, I'm not sure.
Yeah, thousands.
What's the wildest or most surprising regression or progression that you've witnessed as a hypnotist and still sticks with you?
There are so many bizarre things that can occur under hypnosis. I don't know why this one comes to mind, because I didn't know what I was doing at the time, right? I was a very new hypnotist. So there was a man who came in and he said, I want to buy a plane, but I'm deathly scared to fly. So what had happened to him is he, when he was learning to fly, something happened. The wheels wouldn't come out on the plane. And they said, he was in a situation, I mean, he had his instructor beside him, but they were foaming up the runway, and there was fire trucks, and this man just went into full-on anxiety, and it's just like emergency land. So this happened while he was learning to fly. So understandably, it's not like he has lots of hours under his belt. So I do my okay, let's go back to I didn't know this had happened, by the way, right? So we do regression, and he's in it 100%, and he's breaking out into full anxiety in the middle of the hypnosis session. Of course, I didn't realize that he had this experience, and I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? So that's when I learned how to do brain scrambling really quick, right? I'm like, follow my hands and breathe, and I don't know what I did at the time. Anyway, I mustered my way through it. Next day, calls me up, Didi, I bought a plane. It's just that simple. Cleared the trauma. I bought a plane. Yeah. He bought a plane the next day. So I've worked with people, and not everybody with anxiety. Sometimes I can work with people, because again, we're going back to anxiety. The number one reason I get people coming to hypnosis for me. One time I worked with this girl, and she was an exceptionally good hypnotic subject. Lifelong time pressured anxiety. I got to get ready. I got to go. I got to get this in. Gone in one session. But then there's other people it takes like 7 sessions to peel them off the ceiling and empower them. And, everybody's different, but yeah, there are miracles that can happen. Actually, I've interviewed 70 of the world's top hypnotists on the miracles they've seen. I think it's called Miracles in Hypnosis on YouTube. You can go, you can look at them. Hypnotists talking about people going into past lives, speaking different languages, ancient languages they don't know. Yeah. An American speaking Japanese, and in a past life regression.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting because I have a fruit phobia, which not a lot.
Yeah, we haven't worked on that one.
I was actually thinking we should probably do a session on that one. I feel like it is so deeply ingrained in me, and this. Just from people who don't, it has nothing to do with sugar. It's from when I was a child. But I actually just don't eat fruit. I used to tell people I was allergic to fruit. And so Didi even knows, because we do stuff.
Yeah, we've never worked on it because we're always too busy doing other stuff.
Yeah, well, we should. I think that'd be really good.
Because fruit is so healthy for you in moderate, when you're moderate.
Yeah. We'll go into that on another thing, but we're running out of time. So if your energy feels different, softer, or more tuned in, that is resonance. So thank you so much, Didi, for being a clear channel, fierce feminine force, and just a grounded guide for those of us who need to tap in and become more aligned with ourselves and the next version of ourselves. So remember to trust your intuition, because it's not a whisper, it's a compass, and to tap into the quantum field because it is always listening, and that embodiment is your message. And if you want to go deeper with Didi, you can visit didiverg.com. It's VERG. And check out her transformational retreats, her program. She's got a private membership. And of course, she does all of her magic, quantum hypnosis, NLP, tapping, you name it. She has a really unique blend of soul science and sacredness that I personally love. So Didi, if there's anything you'd like to add on before we say goodbye.
Yes, I want to remind people to please be gentle and compassionate with yourself. Treat yourself like you would treat your best friend. Because we don't say negative things to our best friend. We don't berate them. We don't tear them down. We encourage them. And we actually have to treat ourselves as well as we treat other people. So be kind, be gentle, and know that, you know what, you have everything you need. You may have to do some work to peel off those layers to get access to it from your unconscious, but you really do. Everybody comes in with their own special and unique gift, skill, or talent that they possess. Everyone, I don't care who you are. You may not recognize it as a gift, but you're gifted. Yeah. So yeah, follow your bliss, like clear up your past, get access to your gifts, be gentle on yourself, and be kind out there, because the world is going through a lot right now.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to add, I have had hypnosis with Didi too, and I love her, as you can tell, but it's so nice. I've had a lot of hypnosis, like I did stuff with Marissa Pierce and I have her recording, but with Didi, it's like I know she loves me, and just like she was just speaking there, it's like when I hear it, I'm so receptive. I'm like, she loves me, and it's just like a big sister. I know you do, but I mean, I'm sure it's like that with everybody when you listen to her stuff, so I do highly recommend it. Anyways, that is all for today. So if something sparked something inside of you today, please like, share, and subscribe on Jess TV, Roku, and on YouTube, and head to feedyourchakras.ca for the blog, and if you want to purchase the book. And then for more heart-led high-frequency conversations, tune in next Saturday at 11. Until then, stay open, stay attuned, and always feed your frequency. Thank you, Didi, for
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.